Hi everyone, I am here with a true story. This one has a quote before it from Cicero de Natura Dellarum. How great is the wonder of heavenly and earthly things. And the story is called Surprise Witness. Peggy Williams was very worried about her daughter. Sherry, after 17 years of marriage, Sherry had recently gotten a divorce, and the past months had been traumatic for her and her two children. As a fifth-grade teacher, she had to bear up under a lot of pressure at school, Peggy says, but she was falling apart emotionally at home due to ongoing harassment from her ex-husband, as well as disrespect from her children, who were upset over the divorce. It all put a heavy strain on her. The women talked often, but Peggy felt hopeless to solve Sherry's problems. All she could do was pray with her daughter, hoping the stress would ease. But a difficult hurdle lay ahead of Sherry, a final court date to determine custody, alimony, and other arrangements. Sherry's husband had warned her he would do whatever it takes to get custody of the children. Many in his family, which was well known and influential in the community, were attending this hearing to support him, as they had done in the past. Since Sherry hadn't shared her tales of marital difficulties with friends, she now had one who could testify on her behalf, or she had no one. But Tammy's loyalties would certainly be divided, and Sherry wouldn't ask Tammy to choose sides. No, except for her mother, Sherry. She was alone, and she knew it. Her ex-husband was a good father, but despite the children's anger over the divorce, they wanted to stay with her. Yet how could she win them with the odds? They seemed so stacked against her. Peggy, of course, would go to court with Sherry, but when the hearing was finally scheduled, there was a conflict. Peggy, a real estate broker, had paid tuition for a course she needed. The date of the hearing, October 5th, fell during the week of the course, which was being taught in Norfolk, Virginia, 4 driving hours away. Peggy was upset, since another course wouldn't be available for months, but she decided to cancel and stay with Sherry. Sherry objected. "Mom, you have to go ahead with this course," she told Peggy. "We'll talk every night of the week you're gone. Things will work out." Peggy wasn't so sure, but eventually she gave in. On Monday evening, October 3rd, Peggy called her daughter. Sherry was calm about the upcoming court date, and Peggy hung up reassured. But on Tuesday, the atmosphere had changed. Sherry was terribly upset about a minor request her lawyer had made, and Peggy's concern grew. Her daughter had always been so well organized and capable. This was not at all the Sherry everyone knew. What if she broke down on the stand and seemed hysterical? What chance would she have to win custody? Oh, if only someone could be there with her. "Sherry, I'll pray all day tomorrow for you," Peggy told her. It was all she could think to say. Peggy was awake most of the night, tossing and turning, worrying about Sherry and the children. "Lord, let her be brave," Peggy whispered. "Put a partition between Sherry and all those against her in the courtroom, so she won't see them and be frightened. Help her, Lord." Wednesday morning, Peggy went to class, but she barely concentrated on the lessons. Tears sprang to her eyes several times as she pictured her daughter, lonely and vulnerable, being cross-examined and denounced. What would Sherry do? What would happen to the kids? When break time came at 9:15, Peggy stumbled through the convention hall lobby to an outside terrace and looked up at the sky. Sunlight was all around her, yet she felt mirrored in darkness. She had to relinquish Sherry to God's care, she knew. Only He could help her now. "God, I love my child, and I can't be with her," Peggy prayed, lifting her tearful face to heaven. "So please, will you take over?" The rest of the day seemed endless, But finally, Peggy returned to her hotel and called Sherry. "Mom, you'll never believe it." Sherry's jubilant voice was a shock. "The judge gave me custody, and my lawyer said I received one of the best support settlements he's ever seen." "Sherry, that's amazing. What happened?" "Well, the first odd thing was that when I was testifying, my chair was facing away from everyone who was against me. I couldn't see them at all, so I felt a lot calmer. I could remember words and events with no trouble at all." Peggy remembered her prayer. "Lord, put a partition between Sherry and those against her." "That's wonderful, honey, but still, how—" "It was Tammy, Mom. She came to court at the very last minute, asked the judge if she could be heard, and testified for me. She was wonderful, and I'm sure she was the critical factor in the judge's decision." "Tammy, how unexpected." "She said that although she loved both her uncle and me, she was most concerned about our children." Sherry went on. She broke down and cried when she described how they were being pulled apart by this whole thing. "But why?" Peggy asked. "What made Tammy decide to come, especially at the very last minute?" "Why," Sherry sounded puzzled. "Why, Mom, you did. Yes, Tammy said you phoned and told her to get up and don't take time to dress up. Just put on anything and get down to the courthouse because your grandchildren needed her. Tammy tried to argue with you, but you were so firm about it that she gave up and came. She even took her 3-year-old with her. It was you, Mom." Peggy's knees were weak. "What time did Tammy receive this call?" she asked. "It was 9:15 exactly." 9:15. The moment when Peggy had turned her tear-stricken face to heaven and asked God to take over. She had been nowhere near a phone then. Of course, nor did she know Tammy's unlisted number, nor would it have occurred to her to involve Tammy. But what were such limits to God? "Things are better for all of us now," Peggy reports. "We do a lot of praying and we constantly search the Word for answers and direction, but this experience has been something that neither of us will ever forget." Good night, guys.